Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. I am your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my pearl-handled pistol, cufflinks so graciously gifted to me by Michael Rivers, our former content genius. God rest his soul. Today we're reacting to, now there's no sex in this video, so you can feel free to have your children watch this one, okay? And I'll try to keep the swearing down to a minimum. All right, but we got some stuff going with our federal government that's a little bit on the scary side. According to the Department of Justice, ex-judge Donna Anna County charged with evidence tampering and a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge charged with unlawful obstruction and concealment. So, the Justice Department just the other day announced federal criminal charges in two separate cases involving alleged obstruction of federal law enforcement operations and unlawful concealment of individuals residing illegally in the United States. So somebody can be illegal here in the United States or undocumented and be facing legal proceedings. And so a judge may say, okay, we're going to release you on bond, but we want you to come back to court. And you know what? Most people want to come back to court. Why do people come to this this country illegally? This is going to be another one of these issues where we're going to have the Trumpster divers just kind of say, "Oh, you're just a piece of shit. You hate white people," and they're going to have. And then you have the other side. Hey, who's documented? Who's illegal? Nobody says that. Come on. All right, fucking calm down. Why do people come to this country anyway? Because most of them, and I've seen quite a few of them, are fleeing violence, fleeing poverty. I mean, come to this. Not everybody who comes into this country is a criminal, okay? In fact, the proportion, I think the studies show that the proportion of people coming to this country illegally that are criminals, although one could argue anybody that enters illegal is a criminal but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about rapists, we're talking about murderers, and sure, some of them are fine people, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. Most of the people that come here for opportunity. They come here to work. If we got rid of all the immigrants, you know what happened to our unemployment rate? Americans don't want to do a lot of these jobs. And these employers are having an awful time trying to find people to work. You get an economic haven like the United States, it's going to draw people in. It's simple as that. And why aren't they going after the employers hiring illegal immigrants? You don't see any move for that. If you took that away, you wouldn't have a draw. But let's talk about these two judges. So the allegations against Judge Dugan and Judge Cano are serious. No one, this is from the Department of Justice, by the way. No one, least of all a judge, should obstruct law enforcement operations. That's an Attorney General Pam Bondi. Doing so imperils the safety of our law enforcement officers and undermines the rule of law. The Department of Justice will continue to follow the facts. No one is above the law. Sanctuary jurisdictions that shield criminal, alien, and endanger American communities. The Justice Department will not stand by as local officials put politics over public safety. Reckless sanctuary city policies create a sanctuary for one class, criminals. Those days are over. Such tough fucking talk. Judge Cano is 68, and Judge Nancy Ann Cano, 68, and Jose Luis Cano, 67, were arrested yesterday for evidence tampering offenses related to federal investigation and prosecution against Christian Ortega Lopez, a Venezuelan national residing unlawfully in the United States and with alleged ties to transnational criminal organization Tre de Aragua. I love how they always say that there's some tie to a gang. And here's what the facts are. Judges, and here's another statement this is from Ryan Ellison, U.S. Attorney for the District of New Mexico. Judges are responsible for upholding our country's laws. It is beyond egregious for a former judge and his wife to engage in evidence tampering on behalf of a suspected Tre de Aragua gang member accused of illegally possessing firearms. The U.S. Attorney's Office is committed to dismantling this foreign terrorist organization by disrupting its criminal operations in New Mexico. And then, according to court documents, Homeland Security investigations initiated investigation into Ortega Lopez after receiving an anonymous tip that the individual was unlawfully present in the United States. So they're trying to pick him up, right? And that he had weapons, an AR-15 and blah, blah, blah. So that on February 28th, 2025, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, executed 2 federal search warrants in connection with the investigation, resulting in the arrest of Ortega Lopez and multiple associates and the seizure of 4 firearms. He was arrested for illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. 4 firearms to believe in Ortega's possession, along with 3 of his cell phones, were seized during the operation. During this search, Ortega Lopez was permitted to make a cell phone call before being taken to the Doña Ana County Detention Center. He informed agents that a particular phone he wished to use was not among the devices recovered. Video calls from the law enforcement center showed that Nancy Cano holding a black iPhone believed to be Ortega's. Why would she be holding? This is a judge, right? Our judge and his wife. In March 7th call with Ortega Lopez, Nancy Cano used the device to contact a person named Michelle via WhatsApp, then facilitated a FaceTime call between Michelle and Ortega Lopez using her personal phone. Additionally, in an April 20th call, Nancy Cano and Ortega Lopez discussed deleting his Facebook account, a platform where he had previously shared incriminating conduct, including gang affiliations and images with firearms. How fucking stupid do you have to be, honestly? I don't know. This is a judge, right? Hold on. Yeah, Judge Cano. Fucking A. Can't make this up. So, in April 24, they executed a subsequent search warrant at the Cano residence to locate the missing cell phone. During questioning, Jose Cano admitted to destroying Ortega's cell phone and smashing it with a hammer approximately 5 weeks prior, believing it contained incriminating photos and videos of Ortega with firearms. Well, that's called self-snitching right there. Forensic analysis recovered of the phones revealed messages linked to Ortega's criminal activity, including So here's the thing. So Jose is charged with 1 count of tampering with evidence, and Judge Cano is charged with 1 count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence. And if convicted, they could face a maximum of 20 years. Why would you do that? This is a fucking judge. This I don't understand. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. So let's say you're an immigrant and you're sitting in my basement with my grandmother, and the 2 of them are just drinking, tequila, and he wants to find out some immigration news. Geez, what am I deportable? I mean, what's going on? Well, he should go AskALawyer.com, because if you go to AskALawyer.com, you pay $49 and you get all the legal help you need in it for an initial consultation. And you're already a citizen. Don't worry about it. Or, no, this is what you need to do, and I'll refer you to somebody, blah, blah, blah. So it's money well spent if you have a landlord-tenant issue, a criminal issue, civil issue, wills and trust issue, immigration issue, whatever your issue is, go to AskALawyer.com. They have lawyers on standby. And they also have an AI component where you can do your own research, and it's trained on all the 50 states and the federal law. So go to AskALawyer.com. Same people that brought you eForms and eSign. They're fantastic sponsors of this channel, and we really highly suggest you go there if you have a legal issue to determine whether or not you either don't have an issue or you need to take the next step. It's money well spent. AskALawyer.com. One of the things that they're really cracking down on is, if you're here illegally, they're rounding people up left and right. So, and they're not listening to the courts. So and here's the other one. The one that we were going to originally start just on this Milwaukee one. But now in the Eastern District of Wisconsin, Judge Hannah Dugan, the Justice Department announced today the filing of federal criminal charges against Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan, 65 years old, for her alleged interference with federal law enforcement operation and unlawful concealment of an individual subject to arrest. According to court documents, the charges stem from the events occurring on April 18th, just recently, when members of the Milwaukee Office of the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement removal operations, they show up to fucking court. And these guys, if they find out when you have court and they just show up, enforcement and removal operations, along with federal partners, FBI, DEA, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, attempted to execute a lawful arrest warrant for Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a Mexican national previously removed from the United States and recently charged in Milwaukee with multiple counts of domestic abuse and battery. So those are probably misdemeanors. According to court documents, federal agents arrived at the Milwaukee County Courthouse intending to arrest Flores Ruiz in a public hallway following his court appearance before Judge Dugan. Upon learning of the agent's presence in the hallway, Judge Dugan allegedly confronted and ordered the federal agents to leave the courthouse after being made aware of a valid immigration arrest warrant. Dugan told agents they needed a judicial warrant and demanded that they go to the chief judge's office. Once the agents were no longer in the vicinity of her courtroom, Judge Dugan allegedly elected not to conduct a hearing on Flores Ruiz's criminal case, despite the fact that the victims of this offense were present, and instead personally escorted Flores Ruiz and his attorney through the restricted jury door exit and not typically used by defendants or attorneys. This doorway led to a non-public hallway through which Flores Ruiz and his attorney exited the courtroom. According to the affidavit, Judge Dugan's actions directly resulted in Flores Ruiz temporarily avoiding federal custody. He was ultimately arrested outside the courthouse. But, I mean, you had to know the agents were just waiting for him outside. I mean, it's just stupid. So she's charged with obstruction of legal proceedings before a department or agency of the United States, which carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison, and concealing a person to prevent arrest, which carries a maximum penalty of 1 year. I don't know why you would do that. You know, I mean, so you got two. So one of the things that is scary, it's when, you know, one branch starts going, you know, the executive branch starts going after the judiciary, right? And the crackdown in immigration is palpable right now. It's absolutely palpable. And I don't know what the statistics are, but I know that the percentage of immigrants that are engaged in criminal activity is less than our general population. Let's look at these two cases. These two cases are a little different. On the one hand, you got somebody actively destroying evidence in a criminal case. And that's a fucking judge doing that. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And then in this case, the judge just let the person go through a different exit to try to avoid arrest. I mean, she's probably miffed, you know, that they're having this chilling presence in her courthouse and in her courtroom. And I can't say what she did was right or wrong. And I can't even say what she did was illegal or legal, you know. What is really disturbing, when you look at what they're trying to do, they're trying to use this Alien Enemies Act, and which are not subject to judicial review of the removal process. I mean, you saw them load all those guys up on that airplane, you know, in violation of the Supreme Court's order. And a district court said, no, bring them back. The Supreme Court said, facilitate this guy's return or take his return. And the Trump administration didn't do it. The Justice Department claims that the Alien Enemies Act allows federal law enforcement officers to enter the houses of suspected gang members without a warrant and remove them from the country without any judicial review. That's ridiculous. You know, the Alien Enemies Act is designed to go after people who we're at war with, you know, not just people who are immigrants and committing crimes. You know, in a March 14th memo obtained by the government, by the Open Government Group Property of the People, Pam Bondi instructs federal law enforcement officers on how to carry out arrests on members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, TDA, which President Trump has declared an alien enemies under the Alien Enemies Act. This is an act that hasn't been used since 1798, and it's supposed to be used in wartime, not like this. But what does it say? You know, let's talk about what the Fourth Amendment is. The Fourth Amendment is the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures without a warrant. So warrantless entry into your home is per se unreasonable, in other words, illegal, and can only be done so without a warrant under certain circumstances. One is hot pursuit. You can enter somebody's home if you witness a crime and you chase and on the chase. One can be if there's like a welfare check or, some kind of emergency going on inside the home. There's the other one, the effervescent doctrine. If you're afraid that if there's evidence in the home, that's going to dissipate or be destroyed. And so you need to, enter the home. So it's one of the exceptions to the warrant requirement has to be there. Otherwise, the Constitution still fucking applies. Just because Pam Bondi says, Donald Trump says we don't need the warrant because we're acting under the Alien Enemies Act. Sorry, I don't think any court is going to uphold that. But arresting these judges is going to have a chilling effect on that. I mean, this judge is in charge of her courtroom, and she can do what she pleases in her courtroom. She can tell the agents, you're not to be in my courtroom or the courthouse. I know what you're here to do. Do it outside. And did she actively conceal this person? No, she said, go through this door. And guess what? They were outside and they got him. So I don't know if that judge did something right or wrong. All I know, it's chilling to start charging these judges with crimes. Now, the ones who destroyed evidence, I don't have any fucking problem with that. That's just stupid. But using this act to all of a sudden say that we don't need a warrant to enter your home, where do we stop? The Republicans have always been less government, more for rights, but it's really rights for the corporations, right? It's not for the rights of the people. I mean, when you look at what and I'm a Democrat, I'm not going to hide that, but and I don't agree with all the things that the Democrats do either. I'm actually more of an independent, but to say that you don't need a warrant to enter somebody's home at this point, just because you're acting on the 1798 law that hasn't been used since then, give me a fucking break. That's a slippery slope. What is the ramifications of this kind of thing? I mean, they don't enter somebody's home like this in regular clothes generally. I mean in uniform. It's usually plain clothes, and it's usually with guns pointed at you. And you see somebody do this, how long before somebody is killed during this? They're going to trample on, the Republicans are supposed to be for your rights. They're supposed to be for less government. And the overreach here by the government is just absolute. Imagine if the Democrats were doing this, what the Republicans would say. I mean, I think it's wrong no matter who's doing it. When you really take a hard look at what this administration is doing with immigration, they're casting a really wide net, and innocent people are getting wrapped up in it. We see that the one guy that they deported to El Salvador, who was going through the immigration process and who had a district court order not to be removed. They don't fucking care. I mean, it's an issue when you take away the judiciary. There's no longer a check on the executive branch. And you got the Congress, which is just a rubber stamp for the administration. We have the checks and balances for a reason. And, something's got to give here somewhere. But I can't tell you how many. I had a guy show up for trial. He was here legally, but he was going through. He wasn't a citizen yet. We show up for trial on a felony, and they take him away, and send him back to his country. Doesn't even give him a chance to answer the charges. And we would have won his case, by the way. We absolutely would have won his case. I don't say that about a lot of cases, but we would have won his case. They're denying due process. They think they can enter your home, and they've been wrong on a number of occasions. They just put a professor, I think she's a professor, a student, grad student, in custody because of her association with things she said about Gaza. Nothing else, just her own views. Are we in the McCarthy era? Where you can be jailed for your views? You can be deported because you think a certain way? It's chilling. It's absolutely chilling. And jailing and charging the judiciary with the crime is also chilling. Now, I can understand when you're destroying evidence. That's probably fucking bad. I don't have any problem with that one. I do have a little bit of an issue with the other one. All she did was let him go out of a different exit. That's all she did. She didn't conceal the person, and maybe there was more of a commotion in her courtroom. And she says, why don't you guys leave out this way because of all the hubbub that just went on? That certainly could have been. And so my heart goes out to her. I mean, think about, you're a judge. You put people in jail. You're not supposed to go to jail. So that's our reaction to the 2 judges that have been charged by the Department of Justice with crimes going anywhere from a 22-year maximum to a 5-year maximum. We'll follow these cases, but you have to assert your rights. Everybody shows up to your house, guess what? No, you do not have permission to search my house. Don't shoot at them, because we're going to do that one too. They showed up to somebody else's house trying to execute a search warrant and didn't show up with uniforms on, and they got shot at and somebody died. So it's just so fucking dangerous. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe to Instagram, subscribe to this channel, because we need you. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and go to clrbrucerivers.com. And make sure you give a little love to askalawyer.com. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.